rage is founded on 2/3 a person, rapings and beatings and suffering that worsens. Black human packages tied up in strings. Black rage can come from all these kinds of things. Black rage is founded on blatant denial, squeezed economics, substance survival, deafening silence, and social control. Black rage is founded on wounds in the soul. When the dogs bit, when the beatings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember all these kinds of things, and then I don't feel so bad.
What is blackness? What is blackness? Is black really a race? Blackness is a sacred space. Blackness is a vibration. Blackness is being able to receive and transmit energy. You know blackness when you see it. You know blackness when you're around it, because you feel blackness. Blackness is the reason why the world loves every strength that you have. Blackness is the same reason why they want to tear you down. Blackness is in the way that we talk. Blackness is in the way that we stride down the street. It's really a hover if you look close. Blackness is having a sixth sense for when a fight is going to break out. What isn't blackness? Maybe that's a better question. My whole life is blackness. Everything I do is blackness. To be less black, unachievable. To be anything less than blackity black, 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 black is unbelievable. That's what blackness means to me. What does it mean to you?
Young, black, and intelligent.
As sure as the ocean roars, blanketing itself along the shores, pummeling rock into sand, our feet against the pavement we stand, voices raised to the heavens demand, actions speaking louder, black and power, black and power. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for episode 6. We are the Wandering Collective, and we will be discussing what is blackness. Now, blackness is encompassed in all of us here, but we also want to remind you of our motto, which is conscious of the old, creating the new, igniting our light while respecting our roots. So today we're respecting our roots.
Blackness. I'm already fucking up already, bro.
So on this podcast, I would like to talk about. We're going to talk about this as a group, but I guess I'll start it off with talking about my experience on coming to understand what I am. You know.
But before we even go to that, we do want to talk about and acknowledge that none of us are the experts on blackness here.
Right.
As we talk about our personal experiences, our knowledge that we've gained through our lifetimes and generations of black struggle, none of us are the experts. So
Yeah.
I just want to.
This is all personal. You know. This is all personal. But it is insight. You know, onto realities that we go through. Right. And so. Growing up, I went through predominantly white institutions. Like I grew up in those, going to school, and all the way up until college. I'm still in college, but all throughout I've had an understanding of who I was, and it wasn't until I got into maybe middle school when I started to feel a separation between myself and my peers. And it was mostly because of my blackness. You know, it was because I didn't have the same style, I didn't have the same type of way of speaking, or I didn't have the same type of experiences as far as my family. And then that even seeped over to my peers who were black. And it became some sort of a competition to see who was more versed in what is blackness and who was an expert. And so my experience with understanding my blackness is that I had to really know in myself, you know, when I look in the mirror, like that's what it is, like, you know.
I've had times when people try to like revoke my black card, like because of something that I didn't like or that I did like that was like not black, but
Not
like
black.
not black enough,
like,
right? Like it's like
Can I ask, like, I mean, it's like general question for everybody, like, 'cause I also had those experiences,
Yeah.
like, what was one of those things to be like, yo, you like that or you do that? That's not very black.
Comic
so
books.
yeah, I got that a lot. I got that a lot with my music, you know what I'm saying? And that was what hurt for me a lot, because like I'm over here, I'm listening to let's say something just on the radio, like
Paramore.
yeah, let's use Paramore. That's a great example. Paramore's good. Like let's say I'm listening to a track, and then, you know, like a friend of mine who feels that I should meet some sort of quota of blackness. They see that and they say, "Oh, Paramore's not black," you know, like that's not cool, you know, because like some tests that they're the only ones that got, you know what I'm saying? They're the only ones that got the test. They're the only ones that was taught, you know. It's like they got the books, they got the textbooks and everything like that. And obviously I didn't find that book in my house or something like that. But yeah.
Oh, for me, it's anime.
Yeah.
I think we had talked about that before, like the how they call black nerds blurs, right? That's part of the like culture for people to call us blurs, but we're nerds, you know. Like if you're a nerd and you're black, you're still a nerd. You don't call white nerds words, you know. Like we're all nerds. It don't matter what color your skin is. If you like anime, if you like, you know, going and doing full cosplay, like you're still, it doesn't matter what skin color you are.
Yeah. That's a trip though, like people throw like black things on, like, oh, you the black this or you the black
So
this.
tell me why.
You know what I'm saying?
So
like, why is it like that?
Yeah, I was just about to say, because like I'm Asian, right? I'm Korean. I'm 25% Korean. And so, like, I have to deal with that, like, biracialness, whatever. But, like, I was always a black Asian. You know, I was always Blasian. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know, like, a part of what I feel blackness is not really understanding where you really come from, because they erase all of that.
Yeah.
But, like, for some, exactly.
Right.
For some. But, like, I was Korean because I know I'm Korean. Like, I can point on a map, I'm from here. But when I say I'm black, like, I'm just like, I'm from this area. I'm from this, like, you know, and I was taken or something like that. But that was, and that's I feel like that's what, a way to put people in a box, you know what I'm saying? To suppress them, you know, because, like, you're Asian, but you're a black Asian, or you're a black something, or, you know what I'm saying?
I feel like to connect that with, like, what's going on contemporarily is, like, Kamala Harris. Is being touted as like the first black woman vice president candidate, and it's like, because of how blackness operates in this country and in the Americas, like blackness is a reminder, it's a mark of slavery. Like that's what society wants to remind everyone of, is that when they created all these divisions, when they created all of these castes, like black was something you can never erase. Irish folks, they could come over and become white after a while if they just lost their Irish name. Folks who, there's actually a Supreme Court case where there was an Indian man who petitioned to be classified as white. He just didn't want to. He just didn't want to be with the coloreds. He didn't want to be with the coloreds. And so, like, I feel like there's aspiration to be something other than black. Like black still is like a mark. A marker. Ever since in the 1500s when they first started calling people black and white, it was only to delineate who was supposed to be a slave, and that stays with us. That's why we have the first black president. That's why we have the first black Supreme Court justice. It's because they never let that aspect of our identity go.
Yeah, that's real.
Should we let that aspect of our identity go?
I feel like that's like something we gotta. We can't forget.
For me, I say no. I think that being Black is being proud of all of the aspects that we've encountered, all of the heartache and bloodshed and tears and everything that our ancestors have gone through. Because when it comes to humanity, right, we're not separate. We are this collective consciousness, but we do have this human, you know, genetics, you know, we have our ancestors' trauma embedded in our DNA. It's proven that our ancestors' trauma is in us.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's something that I have, a few bars that talk about your rage shows me that you haven't been through what I've been through. You cannot come from what I've come from because of how angry you get. And a lot of white people get so angry so fast. And that's because they don't have our genes. They don't have, even if we've had a great life as a Black person, we still have had to deal with shit, and we still have shit that our ancestors have had to deal with that's in us that makes us different in this society. Like we can take a lot more as a people.
Yeah. And so what I just want to add like a little caveat to the genetic makeup of African people. What they found in epigenetics is that whatever happens to that generation can be found in the genetic makeup, and it's called epigenetics because it's the proteins. It's what your body's doing outside of what your DNA says to do. So like if you have a generation that had abundance, like they just ate till they wanted to, drank till they wanted to, and that very next generation, what you'll see showing up in epigenetics is just like a happier, more lazy countenance in the next generation that comes up. Yeah. But what happens when you have 400 years just 400 years of generation upon generation of beatings
that's in us
and raping.
for a long time, and it's still going on. It's still going on, right? Like lynchings are still real. These Black men are not committing suicide on trees.
Yes, history books, they capture the stuff that happened, but it's not stopped. It hasn't stopped once you close that other side of the book. Yeah. You know, you in it.
Najee, you want to tell us what Blackness is to you?
Oh, yeah. Shit. I'm gonna think about this question for like
we gonna cut that out.
What was you trying to say earlier?
Oh, about like saying like, should we cut off the Black in front of things? And I feel like it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Because if I walk up to you and I tell you like, I'm the first Black person in Sacramento to open like a restaurant, whatever. That's like, you my nigga, so it's just like, you did that. But the thing is, I feel like most of the time when I see the narrative of someone saying this is the first Black someone, it's not us. And so that's why I kind of feel like, yes, on that aspect of like, if you write in the paper and you not us, then say this person just opened a restaurant. But if it's a us publication, be like, yo, this is some shit my niggas is doing. We the first Black person to do this, the first Black person to do that. So that's why I kind of feel yes and no with that question.
I feel you. Because like, I feel like that's really important too. Because like, we gotta, because I think that's like a part of like us owning who we are, right? Because like, we understand that we are Black and we're not afraid of that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what I feel like society wants us to feel. It tries to force us to hate ourselves, right?
And it's successful.
In a lot of people.
Saying, though, like when somebody is trying to relate to you who doesn't even come close to understanding what you've been through, it's kind of like,
Why are you labeling me?
Yeah, labeling me. Like I had this girl reach out to me when like the George Floyd protests had first started, and she tried to relate my life as a Black woman to her research of Martin Luther King. And she just sent like these massive messages, which I'm not gonna, if anyone knows me, if you send me too long of a text, I'm not responding. Like, you better call me. So I'm definitely not trying to like read all of this, right? But she like just went in and was like, I even interviewed this guy, and I was like, look, my great grandfather stood next to him on the I Have a Dream speech. Like he was there. He was one of his close people that he, did work with. And my family that is so much stronger in the life that I've lived than anything that you're going to try and relate to me on right now. And trying to tell me that she knows Martin Luther King was peaceful. That's what the whole thing was. yeah, everyone should be peaceful because Martin Luther King was peaceful, right? So,
See,
that's a whole other. I mean, we can go into it a little
get on
bit,
that one for
but
a
that's a
minute.
whole.
And see, I feel like that's what they
part
do.
3, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I feel like that's like that's what something as Black people we have to be wary of, right? Because like society knows that trigger word. Oh, Black person said this, so you got to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly
Because-
why we're not the representation
You know what I'm saying?
of all Black people on
Exactly.
this podcast.
Like
People be doing that.
MLK says don't have be peaceful and stuff like that.
But he
Aren't
didn't.
You, like aren't you black? Aren't you black? Shouldn't you act like that? No, and I totally understand that too. But I'm saying the way that they use his
Yeah.
legacy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
that's what we got to be. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what we got to like think about. Like our legacy. You know.
I think we definitely have a forthcoming episode of like the legacy of Black leaders and how.
Legacy of Black leaders. We
Yeah,
need
I
that.
think we definitely because
We need
what
that.
happens so often is that our movements are co-opted and watered down and sold back to us.
Yeah.
But next episode.
Can you say that one more time for the people who didn't listen?
Our
One more
movements,
time.
our movements are co-opted and washed down and fed back to us.
Yeah.
Fed.
Fucking regurgitated.
Not even no finesse, no sparkles, no
Just like this.
extra salt on
You
it.
know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that cow got 4 stomachs, you know what I'm saying? They eat it, you know what I'm saying?
So
What is
one
Blackness?
thing that was coming up to me when just like hearing everybody talk about their experiences of Blackness is like the spectacle. Like people see you, they want to label you, they want to understand you, they want to relate to you. But how do we relate to each other? Like when it comes to me being with a sister, me being with a brother, like how do Black people relate to each other?
Like in general, or how do we like improve it?
It can be personal.
Personal,
yeah.
If
yeah,
someone wants
maybe
to talk,
even like where you started on your journey of Black community and where you've ended up, you know. Because I know you might be different. For me, it's it's definitely grown into more of a love and comfort and safety than I realized. But I guess when I was younger, like I like, I had that feeling when I was around Black people or other people of color. I felt safe. I felt more comfortable, and I didn't realize it until I got older. When it's something that I look for, I go run. There's 2 parks like that are close to my house, and I run to the one where the people of color are at, even though the other one is like bigger space, more room, like nicer running area. I run to the park that I feel safe, even though I don't feel like anything's gonna happen to me, Yeah. But Black community, when I'm traveling, when I'm in Asia, like, and living there, the biggest thing I miss is Black people. Like, I miss that, like, safe, like, comfortable, like, you get me type of vibe.
and I feel like that's something very key to Black people, because the way we bond is like a large part of it is through trauma, and that's like, I don't think we should be afraid of that, because that's not something that we can handle, or we can not handle. That's something we can control.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if we in the society and they all, they're trying to do stuff to us, and we gotta just survive.
And if we run from that, white people are gonna run from that. If we run from that acknowledgement, that's, to me, like, I, as an educator, like, if I don't talk about these uncomfortable things, I know my white colleagues are definitely not gonna talk about it.
And see, that's okay. So for MLK, for y'all trying to use MLK and all that, in his book, he be talking about how white people have so much debt that they have to make up on. You know what I'm saying? Because Black people, we already here. We waiting for y'all.
Bruh.
We waiting for y'all. We
I've
over here
been
with
learning
all
this shit since the beginning. I've been learning
with
your
all this
truth.
love. We over here with all this love and all that. You know what I'm saying? We always have our own arms open. You know what I'm saying? Always willing to be like, oh, you ready to change? but then y'all just keep on giving us these legislations and being like, eat that, be satisfied, be okay with that.
And
just
school's
like
changing right now. I'm in grad school right now, and the classes are talking about all this stuff, and they're all
About
like,
time, yeah.
and it's like, yo, they have to go read about this shit. And for the first time in my life, it's taken me 17 years of schooling to get to where I'm at now, where I can be like, yo, I learned all this shit because my family taught me the truth on the sidelines of your colonized education.
Yeah.
I literally have learned my people's history in truth.
Yeah.
And I can sit here and do a 5-minute video on this topic without having to read the textbook. That's what's up.
That's black privilege right there.
Black
Man, it's the basic shit. This is kindergartner shit, bro. Let me know when you get into real shit.
For real though.
Let me know when we start talking about double consciousness and friends fun on. Let's get there. And then we can start talking. But what about you? What about you, Najee? Like, cause I want to know. You grew up in Southside.
No, I didn't.
No.
I did not.
Where you grew up?
I grew up I was born in San Jose. I moved to Elk Grove when I was in the 4th grade. Yeah, and so I was out there for a cool ass minute, and then I went to the Bay Area for college, and I was in a couple different towns for a couple different years, and then I moved back a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. That's basically my life as far as like my locations and shit like that. Yeah. But as far as like my experience being black, I feel like the earliest one of my very earliest memories, I just remember I was just playing hella randomly. I was in Elk Grove by now, so probably like in 4th grade. I was just playing, doing as kids do, and my mom stopped me and she was just like, "Yo, your life is gonna be like you're black." You know what I'm saying? Like, you gonna apply for jobs and like you may be here, and a white dude might be here. He still may get the job, you know what I'm saying? Like, you here and you here don't mean shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta go extra. So when they look at your shit and they look at him, it's just like, yo, dog, I wanna hire you, but homeboy just flamed your shit so hard that it's like, you know what I'm saying? So as a kid, I'm like, nigga, why is it like that, bro? That don't make no fucking sense to me. I'm like, why do I gotta try so hard? And why is it like the other white dude, he don't gotta try so hard like that? Yeah. So I grew up like that, thinking that, and then I always had like a couple black homies around me, like my most inner circle, black, but my like wider circle was not black. And so but to kind of go with the blackness, I felt like I wasn't like black enough to be hanging out with all the other black people. You know, I like anime, I like doing my thing and stuff like that. So I'm like, you know, I'm gonna go kick it over here, where it's just like I don't like I'm just doing my thing. And then I was I'm just connecting the dots right now, but I was in the mountains, just living with Rastas and shit like that, growing weed, and just like it was just us. Just black people just doing black shit, and our neighbors were like, they were meth heads. I'm gonna add it, like they were white meth heads and shit like that. So it just kind of like, it's us. I felt like at the time it was like us against them. You know what I'm saying? Like if anything happens, we know we got each other. You know what I'm saying? Like fuck all that shit. Not just they're white, but they also do meth. So it's just like that's a whole other shit. So, but one thing I definitely noticed after that is that I've never been conscious of like you were my friend a little bit, but I know like right now I consciously and unconsciously choose to put myself around black people, and that's because I feel like that's who I'm most comfortable around. My mind goes so like fast, I have anxiety and shit like that, so when I'm in white spaces and I hear white people talk, my brain goes fucking off. You know what I'm saying? Like, a nigga be talking like, oh, I went here. I'll be like, well, I mean, you only went there because your father has money and whoop wop wop. And it's just like, I don't want to say that shit and kind of break the mood all the time. I'll be like, bro, like, cause it's like, I feel like I'll make all these 7 white people sad. This bro, so it's just like, I'll be just kind of staying in my space, or even better, just choosing to not even put myself in those spaces. So I'll be like, I don't know.
That's what's beautiful about 2020 is that it's allowing a lot of people to just like be comfortable with us speaking up, right?
Are they?
Or having to take it. I've been talking on every chance I get in this year, since everything has been like so starting to be exposed as much as it has been. This is it's been exposed in the whole history of the United States, right?
Yeah.
This is the most that white people have been like, oh shit, maybe I have microaggressions. Like a white person asked me the other day, what is microaggressions? I'm like, well, let me tell you.
Yeah. And
I would have been like, let me Google that for you.
Like I hear that, it's like, for me it's like, if you hit me with a microaggression, I'm probably not gonna be around you for too much longer.
For our listeners,
who are educating themselves,
who are learning and catching up to speed, a microaggression is, so let's break it down. Micro, small, aggression, right?
I like that.
So, what a lot of people who are from, minority women, what we experience is casual racism and discrimination that comes in the form that usually seems pretty benign. It's
You got an example?
Can I touch your hair? It's can you teach me how to do the Dougie?
Oh, I didn't know black people tanned.
It's the
you vegan? Who taught you that?
Right. It's like
all of that. You're a teacher?
Yeah.
You're a teacher?
What? How long you been doing that?
Yeah.
You just look so young, that's all.
Yeah.
It's like, you look old, man. I don't look young.
Yeah, so that's what microaggressions are. And so, like, a lot of us experience that every day. But for me, as a black person, I didn't have that language until I was 19 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've been experiencing my childhood full of these microaggressions. People, saying like, oh, like you do this so well. Oh, you're so well spoken.
Yeah.
Oh, like,
I got that. Oh, you can write in cursive? Good for you, sweetie. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like I didn't get the language that empowered me to explain my experiences like fully.
Yeah.
Like
right.
the school to prison pipeline that happened to me. The like all of that stuff, I didn't have the language until I was 19. So I'm thinking about all the other black people growing up anywhere in the Americas, anywhere in the world, when we really don't even know how to articulate or understand that what's happening to you is a part of a greater structure, that it's not just you, that it's not just a racist principal, that it's not just, a racist judge, that it's like this whole system that's been created that's prescribed and defined blackness, but that we take back and we find our own ways to navigate this whole world that's been created around us.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? You just inspired me. How important is it to have, because one thing I noticed definitely helps me is like language. So how important is it to properly have the language to connect the feeling of the traumatic things that you're going through? How important is that?
It's of utmost importance to me, because until you can point at it and say what it is, it's not real. That's why we've taken so much time to define and quantify how racism affects us. When it's like a black woman makes 13 cents to every dollar that somebody, like, that's why we have it, because if we don't have that language to describe what happens to us, it's
gonna keep going.
We even have videos now of proof, and we still get disregarded. So imagine just how much we got disregarded before we had the language, before we had the statistics, before we had the videos. And people still say it's fake. It's like, dude just pulled out a gun and shot him in the back. And 20 times, and you're gonna still.
I think that's really important too, because like what Sierra was saying with like all this evidence, because like one thing that I feel that white people love to do is they try to make you feel like what you're, like they gaslight you. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just like, no, or they say
black on black crime is a perfect gaslight. It's
they try to like oh dang, I'm sorry. I kind of lost my train of thought. But they go on these like technicalities, like saying like, oh, you don't have the right language to express how you feel and stuff like that. Even though, if I were to say, everywhere I go throughout every time I walk down the street, people are making me feel like I'm different. People are making me feel like I'm not enough, stuff like that. And until we have the language to be like, yo, I'm dealing with microaggressions all day. You know what I'm saying? We won't understand. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that. Yeah, I think it's like super important, because like. And it empowers people to be able to speak on their experience in ways that other people understand, and that they would be like, oh shit, like that's, like that's, like there's one statistic that I just read today. Like, it's not necessarily about black people, it's about colonization, but it was saying that like 3 million natives to Haiti were just exterminated when Spaniards came through in the 1400s.
That's definitely a black thing.
And so it's like, you know what I'm saying? So when you think about it, when you hear like a number like that, and within 14 years, it was within 14 years.
Yeah.
So when you really get to like, like it's just, those types of things are important for people to be able to like grasp, because we talk about how the Holocaust, 6 million people died, right? And I'm not making anything light about that, but the power that grips people with, you know what I'm saying, is something that we are being, like, not like we have to aspire to be like, you know what I'm saying, but like in a competition for trauma and anything like that, but like we have to be able to we got to continue to find new ways to get people to understand, like to really advocate and like understand us, you know what I'm saying, like
we're resourceful.
We're
Resourceful. We found ways to communicate it through song. We've had great playwrights who put this on the stage for folks. We're innovative in the way that we find language and use language to bring people in and help people understand. Yeah, we can wrap in 10. I wanted to speak a little bit to my experience though, like growing up as a black woman in South Carolina, as a little black girl in South Carolina. The state curriculum. So South Carolina was the first state to secede from the Union. South Carolina said, we want our slaves and we want them now and forever. So when all that talk of abolition started, South Carolina was like, dipping, we're going to start our own country over here. So imagine a little African diaspora, anybody, growing up in a public education system in that kind of context. Like, you learn about slavery for a day. And it's like, and the slaves were happy, and the bad slaves weren't so happy. and then Martin Luther King. All right, let's move on. So, like, that was my public school, but I was blessed enough to have a black mom who was with the knowledge, gave me books, had me watch Amistad. I think I was probably like in 5th grade or even younger when I watched Amistad, the story of a slave ship where, people rebelled. And so, like, that part of my education that happened at home, that happened on the weekends, that happened with family, if I hadn't had that education as a supplement to what I was getting, I probably would end up like some of my classmates who were so self-hating and so unaware of the ways that they were behaving and acting out what society wants, that self-hatred, that pulling each other down, that crab in a barrel mentality, that, they were busy tearing down each other, tearing down me, anybody who was proud of their blackness, anybody who had natural hair, like, it's just like they hated it so much. But it's like, that's part of how we relate to each other. Part of how we relate to each other is insulting each other. And I feel like we definitely need to let that shit go. Like, let's leave that in 2019. But like,
I know our group has done a beautiful job of just like loving. Yeah.
We're a pretty positive group.
Yeah.
And so, like, my experience being informed by that kind of cesspool of hatred and just the blessing of a black parent who wants to bring their kid up, like, that's what I experienced. Like,
that's a full blessing.
Yes, fine.
Yeah. Sorry, I just started thinking about I connected these two things because Najee talked about how he has to be better than, right? We have to, we as any black person, you're told that you have to be better than, you have to be told
10 times
you have
better
to be better than the last, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I was just thinking about how you're talking about your experience and about how we as black people need to let go of insulting each other and stuff like that, all that unnecessary like digging and stuff like that. And I feel like that is somehow connected because we are always striving to be greater, right?
Yeah.
We're always, like our Eros love for ourselves, you know what I'm saying? That love for ourselves is always trying to be better. But then, you know, I don't like saying it, but a toxic way that it comes out and manifests itself is that we have have these digs on each other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and that's not, and you know, like, and I feel like that is like an ill defined meaning of blackness, because like when you get around black people, like as a black person, like first thing is like, oh, like what are you doing? And then like, oh, you should do it like this, or you should do it better. You know what I'm saying? And it's like a way, I feel like, of like within our community that we suppress ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what
That
I'm
was
saying?
in Queen and Slim when they were sitting in the truck and she's talking about herself. I'm an excellent lawyer, you know, and he's like, why do black people always got to be excellent? Why can't we just be like
All right.
us?
Yeah.
Why can't we just be us?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if it is to be you, if that means to be excellent, then do that.
Yeah, the two aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
You can be yourself and excellent.
Yeah.
Queen and Slim was such a sad movie.
Man, I almost cried.
Nah, I fucking
Almost
cried.
got me. I almost did.
I was in tears.
Yes. Yes.
It's pretty, and it's yeah.
It's
It's
so
definitely
good.
sad.
It's definitely a story about blackness.
If you haven't seen
Got
Queen
the
and
solid-
Slim, I
mean,
saw it
Plugging
like
it.
3 times in theaters.
Yeah, maybe
Ooh.
we should get a sponsorship from Queen and Slim producers.
From Queen.
Dude, I just wanted to add what you said to the dropping shit. It's like, even though that's one of my first memories, I think that shit needs to be let go too.
Right.
I don't like, even though like I love my mom, but I don't agree with that shit no more.
Mm-hmm.
Cause it's like, in that context, that's a white employer. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that just fucks up the whole context of just being like, well, if I work for myself, then I don't have to try as hard as him. I'm not in a competition. I'm only looking at myself. So it's like, I just want to say, it's just like, I don't fuck with that shit either.
No, yeah. One thing I gotta let go that my mom always told me was that we're representing. You know what I'm saying? We walk into a building and we are because usually when you walk into a building as a black person, you're probably gonna be the only person there. You're probably gonna be the only black
Unless you
person
go
there.
to a black function.
Unless you go into right. And so my experience growing up is that my mom would always, whenever we were in this space, that we were minorities, like apparently minorities. You know what I'm saying? Like we can't escape it. Which was usually like church or like places like church after we started moving churches, like later on in my life. But like places like schooling, restaurants, movie theaters, like anywhere walking, we would always be told that we're representing and that we had the weight of like blackness, of the whole black culture on us, and we have to be on our P's and Q's, and we can't slip up, because then it's like a bad example on the rest of us and all that, and that's a lot of weight to bear when you only 5 and you only know black as a color on the screen, you know what I'm saying, or on the paper, and you know what I'm saying. And so like I feel like that's one thing that, you know, that's something I gotta let go, is that like I could just be myself.
Yeah.
And I am black. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Dude, to try to double onto that, because I'm thinking about the same thing, bro, like representation. I've been mad thinking about this podcast for like over 2 weeks, bro. Yes and no. Because I say no first, because the representation of black people of being like, we gotta be on our P's and Q's. To me, that shit go back to slavery shit. You know what I'm saying? If you're not on your P's and Q's, you're gonna get lynched for a while.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I think about, it's like, when I go out, do I represent black people? Almost yes. Almost like a black diplomat. In the sense of being like, yo, you think that black people are monolithic in one person, so I'm gonna show up in this place and be extra black. Not extra, not something that's not me, but I'm gonna show up to this place and be a vegan. I'm gonna show up to this place and draw some shit. I'm everything. They'd be like, oh shit, I didn't know black people were like that. I know you did it. That's why I chose here, and now I'm gonna be black. And then when you come and do some shit, be like, oh shit, now, because now they're getting the full scope. So that's why I be like, we do represent black people in being our own individualness. We represent the whole, and that's some shit I was thinking about.
I feel that, and I feel that. I resonate with that. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about, if you're done.
It's good.
You're done?
I was
What
just
blackness is to me. Go ahead.
Go for it.
Go ahead. Go. And then I'll shoot. Girl.
Wait, you see, you better bust
wait for you.
BB, you gonna have to cut this out.
Man.
Let's see, Sierra. I want to know. I want to know what you're thinking about.
Your closing statement.
Blackness to me is, I think, very relative to this generation. You know, my perspective of blackness is so relative to our generation from growing up in toxic households. You know, a lot of us have, not all of us, but a lot of us have grown up getting told, you know, just controlled by our parents, getting yelled at for things that we shouldn't have, being, you know, having to be this representation of Black people because of what they came from, you know. And this generation, to me, and how I personally feel about being Black is revolutionary, is something that this planet has never seen, is something that I'm, as an educator, can walk into a classroom and talk about Black and white and racism and not lose my job. And even if I would have lost my job, I would still be that person. But I got on a Skype or on a Zoom call with my class, because we're learning distance learning, and I asked about 100 plus soon to be teachers you need to decide how radical you're going to be, and you need to decide right now, because when the time comes, are you going to go in your classroom and relate humanitarian issues to politics, or are you going to speak up for what's right, regardless of what your textbook says? And to me, Blackness is, you know, growing up being from, you know, living in that toxicity in the household, being a teenager and going to school and going to functions on the weekends. For people who don't know what a function is, it's a party. Going to functions on the weekends and knowing they were going to get shot up and still going anyway, and hopping over fences and jumping out of windows and laughing about it on our way out because nobody got shot. You know, and going home afterwards and hanging out with my friends and, like, you know, sitting on electrical boxes and, like, singing and dancing and listening to music and, you know, just culture, like full on having culture and having perspective of not only from myself, but seeing the perspective of white people around us in our society. A lot of, you know, for hundreds of years, white people have looked at Black people like they were less than. But in the truth of it, Black people have held the perspective of ourselves while seeing the perspective of white people fully, and understanding that they think that we're less than, but almost like making it comical that we know how you see us, we know how you feel towards us, we know that you've been misled, we know that you have been taught ignorance and hate and rage, and we still love. And to me, Blackness is love. Blackness is acceptance. Blackness is strength. Blackness is power. Blackness is community. Blackness is laughs and, you know, surviving. And Blackness is not moving off the sidewalk anymore. And Blackness is the future, you know? It's
Blackness is liberation.
Liberation, man.
That's real.
That's a perfect place to end.
So
we got some more shit
We're definitely gonna have more conversations about Blackness, because this is not a topic that can be onced over in 45 to 60 minutes.
Not at all.
We're definitely going to revisit it. We're going to bring more experiences. We're going to bring more facts and figures.
Facts and figures, for sure. And if you have anything to show us, you know, send us a video clip under 1 minute of your perspective of Blackness, if you would like. We would love that from you. And yeah, the lovely BB, has offered to do this project with us. So anyone wanting to send us what your perspective is, especially if it's different from ours.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, one thing that was missing from this podcast is queer blackness. Like
queer blackness.
We didn't talk about that, but that's coming
up. We got
up.
a whole episode on
coming
that.
up.
I identify
blackness.
as queer, but that's another podcast.
It's coming up.
Yeah.
It's coming up.
Word.
We're gonna be through.
I love you guys. You guys. The listeners too, but I love you guys.
I love you too, and the listeners.
Yeah, it's good. I will leave this. I'll leave this later.
Part 2.
This is
What you
part
got?
2. What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah, it was just something I thought I had I thought about like this quote, but yeah, I think it's better for part 2.
He's on that crack. I know. That's locked up. That's locked
All
up.
right, we love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are the Wandering Collective. We out.